moved from Big Sky. Is that Minnesota? All right, so look, I think we'll get the show on the road here. Thank you everybody for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about fundraising automation, excuse me, and how to optimize your operation with technology. It's, let's see. Well, here, I'll get into it. I'll introduce myself. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Warner. I'm the CEO and founder of MarketSmart. You can find me and connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like. I share a lot of free stuff and information, and some people find it valuable. So if you want to connect with me, please do that. Whoops, here, let me make sure this is sharing properly. All right. Hold on, I clicked on the wrong thing. All right. So I'm also the author of a book titled Engagement Fundraising, which some of you may have read. We give it away for free these days, and you're welcome to it. If you want it, just send it in the chat. Send a message in the chat and we'll get back to you. Otherwise, you could always just reach out to our staff on our main website. I invented the fundraising report card, which some of you may be familiar with. It's a free app. I guess I'm a frustrated philanthropist at heart, so I build some of these things and just give them away to the sector, but it's a metrics analyzer. So especially for quarterly board meetings, if you just upload anonymous data, it's only 3 data points that you need, donor ID, date of each gift and amount of each gift, then you'll get all the reports you need on retention and growth and things like that. So yeah, free. It's about 10,000 users now, and I'm going to use some of the data that we collected from that in today's presentation. Another invention is the Daf Widget, which some of you may have known about and may use. I think that's got over 10,000 users as well. That came out of the fact that I saw there was a Daf Widget that was created by a big bank. It was created by Fidelity. Wasn't very good. It only had 3 donor advised funds in it. So we developed this, which has several hundred. I think it may be at least 500, maybe more. So it's just a plugin you can put on your website and get more DAF gifts. It's totally free again. And then we have our e-course with Dr. Russell James, who I consider the foremost researcher in the field of philanthropy. And we're growing that community slowly, but it's pretty low cost, and you can have as many people in your entire organization and board members take the course, new staff whenever they roll in. So if you want more information about that, let us know. All right. So MarketSmart, real quick, and I'll get into this at the very end in case anyone's interested, but we're a turnkey, done-for-you software and service duo. So we don't just sell software, we provide the services to run the software so that you don't have to. The goal, what the software does is it helps you land more meetings with major donor prospects. It's not a prospect identification tool. It helps you land meetings with them especially when they're ready to talk about gifts of assets and legacy gifts. It comes with a 10-to-1 return on investment offer, so there's no risk to try it. With most of our customers, after a couple of years, end up getting 100-to-1 return on investment. So if there are areas in your organization that you're not getting 10-to-1 ROI, you may want to consider swapping out that and at least looking at how that system works. So all of this is designed, even the free stuff I give away and this webinar, is to help you be the fundraiser that you always wanted to be. That's our goal. That's really the core of our mission. So real quick housekeeping is that the recording and slides will be sent to you all. And even if your friends couldn't make it today, they registered, they'll get the recording and the slides. I'll answer questions at the very end of the presentation. but you can feel free to use the chat tool, and my friend Trisha will be checking that. I won't be during the presentation. Please don't raise your hand because I really won't be able to answer your question. And you could also put the questions. Oh, hi Trisha, thank you. And you could put questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to them at the end. If you find yourself interested in learning more about MarketSmart, we'd love to talk to you. We do not do sales presentations. They're more collaborative and educational. There's never any sales pressure whatsoever. So if anyone's on here who's ever done one of those and found it worthwhile, please feel free to comment about that in the chat tool. But yeah, it's very painless if you want to learn about what we do. All right, so let's get to all about automation, right? Here's your agenda for today. I'm going to talk about why you should consider automation more than you probably have in the past. We'll talk about what you can automate and the 3 types of automation according to me. So I've broken down the types of automation I've seen, and I determined there's 3 types. And I'll help you prioritize where you should start rather than jumping into all 3 types. And then I'm going to give you some deep secrets. They're not so much secrets. I'll call them secrets for today, but I've given them out to lots of people. I probably even wrote a blog post or 2 about them. But we'll get into some of those secrets for success, since most people who use automation tend to do it the wrong way, unfortunately. We'll get into a quick case study to show you the benefits of using automation, some results, some ROI. And then I'll get into a quick explanation, a deeper explanation of how MarketSmart helps folks like you. And then I'll take questions. And then when you leave, there should be a pop-up for a survey after the event. And I hope you'll consider taking that so we can understand you more and improve these kinds of events. All right, so having said all that housekeeping, let's get into why you should consider this. I'm going to go back to a report that came out a few years ago, for starters, from Ruffalo Noel Levitz. Some of you may know, especially if you're in the education space. They're a popular company, I guess. What they found, and it's been confirmed over the past few years by me and my staff, is that the average caseload for major gift officers and sometimes including legacy gift caseloads, although they're slightly different, but the average caseload is about 142 people. Now, the study also found that only about half receive personal visits from a gift officer. So that's leaving half not visited. The problem is that 52% of fundraisers, gift officers, said that they just simply don't have enough time to get it all done. So that's, I mean, there's of course much more in the report, but that's the reason. I mean, they're assigned these people, but they don't have enough time to get to them. They also reported significant frustration with the time they have to spend setting up and completing qualification visits that don't ultimately lead to gifts. So I'm going to get to this a little deeper in about halfway through this, but I say the way I liken this is to wild goose chases, you know. So if it's hard to set up those visits and it's hard to qualify people, but then when you finally do qualify them, they're not really the right people to talk to, or they're not ready, so they don't lead to gifts. It can be quite frustrating, especially when you already don't have enough time to get it all done. So the whole purpose of this presentation is to talk about optimizing you, frankly, not doing away with you. That's not what automation is about. It's designed to do the things that you don't want to or would rather not spend time doing, so that you can do what you are best at doing. So now, with having said that, just a quick poll and a check. I want to see, I'm going to launch this poll here to see if that study is still, frankly, like meaningful or relevant, because I want to see the level of frustration that you have with the amount of time you spend trying to qualify major or legacy donor prospects. So go ahead and fill that out, and we'll let it go for, I'll give it maybe about 5-6 more seconds. Please get your votes in, and then I'll end the poll and share it. Let's see, it's not quite a horse race here. Yeah, all right, so I'll give it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's see what we got. So it looks like about not quite 10%, 8% extremely frustrated. So really 39% are either very frustrated or extremely frustrated. And then most of the rest are somewhat frustrated. There is absolutely nobody who is not frustrated at all, and very few, just 2 people who are hardly frustrated. So I guess I would say that that study is probably still fairly relevant. All right. All right. So if the idea is to optimize you, what we want to do is reduce the time that you spend and the frustration that you experience in trying to qualify and prioritize major donor prospects, right? Because if we can reduce that, if you could have it so that every person that you reach out to is ready and interested and hot to trot, that would be a good thing. I'm sure everybody would agree. So let's figure out how can we do that so that you can be more efficient, more productive, more effective, and frankly, happier. So you stay in your jobs. And if you're in leadership, you want this for your staff because employee turnover is costly and challenging. So, oh, and yeah, I forgot about Jerry Panis. So some of you may have known this guy. He's unfortunately been gone a couple of years now, but he wrote about 20 books on major gift fundraising. And he wrote one time, I thought this was terrific. It's harder to get an appointment than to secure a gift. In fact, getting the appointment, if you could just get that, you'll be about 85% of the way there. So that's the biggest challenge that we hear about here at MarketSmart, and the reason why we recommend automating a lot of processes to help you get those appointments with people who are ready. Here's the canopy, if you will, or an umbrella that's making it even harder for you, unfortunately. And I've been talking about this now for a decade. I call it fundraising climate change. It's this slow moving change away from what's traditional and our traditional understanding of how fundraising works. And it's happening so slowly that a lot of people don't really recognize that it's happening. But there's just more and more evidence proving me right from what I was saying over 10 years ago now. I think it's 11 or 12. And this is the most recent study, well, it was from last year, from the Lilly School of Philanthropy at Indiana, where they found that the percent of people who give to charity, just give to charity, period, has been going down from about 2/3 of Americans down to about half in the past 18 years. And most of that escalation, most of that decrease happened after the Great Recession. So something's happening in our society where people don't want to give as much. The average amount has also gone down tremendously. And this is the data from our fundraising report card, which again, you can see your data. It's a free tool. And there's also benchmarks up on the page. If you it's up on the top, you can see the benchmarks today. This is counted from the very end of 2021. And we do this every year. We just do a recap. But what you'll see is that on average, donor retention has been going down every year for the past 5 years, pretty much. Revenue retention, kind of a little more bumpy, but still in general going down. First time donor retention, that's in yellow, has been going down. I mean, it was awful last year, just awful. The average first time donor only retained at a 17.73% rate. That's just terrible. And and then it's been going down for reactivated donors and also repeat donors. What we are seeing in the data that's fascinating to me is that if you compare under $100 donors with over $5,000 donors, this is the low dollars versus the high dollar donors. The average donation is just 25 bucks from the low dollar donors, makes sense. The average donation from the high dollar donors is about 41,000. Now, here's where it gets super interesting, is that the retention rate of high dollar donors is more than double the retention rate of the low dollar donors. And the lifetime value is absolutely exponential. And this doesn't even include legacy gift revenue, which surely from wealthier people is going to be larger, right? So the thing about this is that these numbers have been creating this sort of donors down, dollars up kind of situation for a lot of organizations. The 80-20, what used to be known as the 80-20 rule, meaning 20% of your donors will supply 80% of your revenue. It's more like 76 and 0.74 these days. So that, in other words, 0.74% of your donors supply 76% of the revenue. Here's how it looks. It's donors giving over $5,000. They make up 0.74% as of last year of your donor base on average. This may be different for you. You could see yours in particular with the fundraising report card. And if you have trouble with that, just reach out to us. We'll help you for free. It's okay. We won't try and sell you anything. It's fine. But they make up about 3/4 of all your donation revenue. So the donors giving under $100 are about 77% of your donor base, but only make up almost 5% of your revenue. So again, your metrics may be different, but it's doubtful they're going to be that far off. This is what we see across the board. And the more interesting part about this is that total giving, though, continues to go up, even though we've lost so many donors from 2/3 of Americans down to 1/2. The total giving among Americans has gone up. So, and it keeps going up. The 2021 numbers are not out from the Giving Institute yet, but should be out fairly shortly. I wouldn't be surprised if it went over $500 billion last year. So we'll see. But so people say, okay, what's going on here? And we could slice and dice and come up with 1,000 reasons why. But the biggest reason overall is because people are losing trust, unfortunately, in nonprofits. I believe that most of this is due to the overly solicitous nature of the communications coming out of organizations, which is in fact exactly what drove me from running a marketing agency for a private sector way back in 2008, I guess it was. I got so frustrated with the way they were soliciting me, sometimes sending me like 9x12 envelopes with a letter and telling me, asking me for $5,000, things like that. It just was so wrong that I called up my favorite organization and I said, look, let me help you with this. What do you need? They needed leads. They needed meetings with major gift prospects, legacy gift prospects. I was like, all right, that's what I'll do it for you. Marketing, free. We did it. It grew. The company grew. Now we have hundreds of customers, thankfully. But what I'm trying to tell you is this sort of acquisition hamster wheel that begins relationships by asking for money is may have been good for 2 or 3 generations ago, but it's not really good for society right now. It just doesn't work. So when you're looking at that same report from the Lilly School found that trust is it's funny, this chart, they couldn't even like fit all the percentages on the left side. They had to sort of skip in their report. But trust among the people older than 30 is going down year to year. They kind of skipped from 2004 to 2012. And then among younger people, it's much, much lower. This again is, I think it's because of all the over solicitation and the way that we communicate with people. I could go into that for just an hour, but I won't. I'll just substantiate this further by saying that the Edelman Trust Barometer, which is a bigger study, they found that in this 2018 study that trust had dropped 9% from one year to the next, but much more among the informed public, which is the more educated people, which is likely to be people who end up being major donor prospects. So this is not good news. In fact, private sector businesses, if you look here to the right, private sector businesses in the teal color surpassed nonprofits in terms of trust ratings from the average people for the first time that ever. So that's fascinating to me. People trust in general private sector businesses more than NGOs. Of course, who they trust less is the government. So I'm not the only one who's been saying it. Some other people are picking up on it, like Elizabeth Boris, who used to be the chair of the Giving Initiative, saying that giving is growing from larger, richer donors. Smaller and mid-level ones are disappearing across the board. And Brian Lauterbach said nonprofit organizations in the US are challenged by this major political, demographic, economic, technological factors outside of their control, and they're finding themselves flat-footed and unable to easily adapt. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think now we even have another problem, which is inflation. I'm hearing that people can't get envelopes. The prices of their printing is going up 20%. Postage went up, I think last year or the past 2 years, something like 6.5%. Salaries are increasing. I mean, everything's getting more expensive, and we may have a recession on the horizon. And if that happens, you could probably bank on the fact that low dollar donors will give less or drop out or cancel their monthly donations. While look, all this kind of stuff, inflation only helps wealthy people. They have assets, and assets tend to increase, especially real estate and such, increase during these recessionary and inflationary periods. So I think that everything that I just mentioned to you is going to be exacerbated in the very near future, which tells me that we've got to think about optimizing you with technology. Now, I'm going to give you an example. I've called it a cautionary tale because I'm going to compare Blockbuster, which is the old school, with Netflix, which until recently started having shedding subscribers. But let's take a look at something that's interesting here is that Blockbuster at their peak had 9,000 brick and mortar stores. Today they have one. I bet you didn't even know that there was one still in existence, but there is. It's in Bend, Oregon. So if you're ever out there, go ahead, check it out. It's a relic. But when you look at Blockbuster and the number of employees they had, I mean, a lot of employees, the revenue was $6 billion, and the revenue per employee, that's the key I want to look at, was $70,000 per employee. Now you look at Netflix fairly recently, they were at 8,600 employees, 20 billion in revenue. So they had 32 times more revenue per employee. That's what technology does. Technology multiplies effectiveness and efficiency. So it's the key to success, and automation technology is the key to optimizing your investment in gift officer performance. Now, talking about automation, we're going to be talking mostly about marketing automation, as it's called. I actually call it fundraising automation because marketing automation companies, I mean, there's over 100, maybe 200 now. And in fact, some of them have been bought up by big CRM companies like Salesforce, bought up Pardot, which is on the left side over here. There are literally hundreds of these marketing automation companies, And generally, they have been designed for private sector businesses, not for nonprofits and fundraising, but there's plenty of them out there, and they will be glad to sell their systems to you. Of course, you've got to hire people to run them, if you will. So automation is also built in many cases to your donor CRM, your event management tools, your peer-to-peer tools, and other things. So if you operate them, or somebody on your staff operates all that kind of software, you're probably seeing automated tools, automation tools in all of that software, which is cool. It's fine. Automation is great because it can help you focus on the keys to effective marketing, which are personalization and relevance and timeliness, sometimes repetition as long as it's gentle, and growing efficiency so that you're not typing emails all the time and such. So the problem with this, though, is that these automation tools are just that. They are tools. And my dad always told me that some people use tools to build stuff, and some people use tools to break stuff. Sometimes people use these tools and they don't know, they think they're building, but they're actually breaking. So remember that tools are like hammers and you don't want to break stuff with them. You want to be careful because they could go either way. Now, what these tools can possibly break is relationships. They could diminish trust if they're used in the wrong way. And as we just talked about, trust is already declining. So we want to use these tools properly to build relationships and build trust, not to diminish them. Never forget that trust is the cornerstone and the foundation of all meaningful relationships, especially with that are related to philanthropy. If a supporter, a donor, does not trust you or your organization to be a good steward of their hard-earned dollars, they're not gonna give. There's just no way if they don't trust you. So I hope I made the point well there. You got to use these tools to build trust, not to harm, not to break trust. All right, so moving along, we're going to get into those three types of automation according to me. They are very simply basic automation, mid-level automation, and high-level automation, for lack of better terms. The basic ones are these like set it and forget it kind of one-off emails that you're probably familiar with when it comes to your, like when people donate online. It's very likely that they get an autoresponder or a thank you email, and maybe there's like a giving receipt that might be sent, and there could be others. But these are unbelievably basic levels of automation, and I'm sure you're already using them within your organizations and institutions. That makes sense. They're easy, they're layups, you know, it's low-hanging fruit. Everybody does it. What mid-level automation does is it adds a component of increased personalization to those basic set it and forget it kind of emails. And there could be some simple kind of drip or triggered series or sequences, as some call it. And in line with all of that, you could get some additional reporting metrics that help you understand who's clicking or how many people are clicking. Usually it's aggregate data, and it's just helpful so you can determine what's working or if people are even engaging with these automated emails at all. Both of these, the basic and the mid-level types of automation, are generally used by fundraising teams, marketing teams, communications teams, operations teams, but focused on low dollar giving. Transactional giving, the more frequent, the voluminous giving, you know, that the 6% of donors and donations that you get that amount to just under 5% of your revenue. So that makes sense because it's such high volume, you want to automate some of those processes. But what gets very little attention is how to use automation for the purpose of raising major gifts that are focused on assets. So as many of you might already know, assets is where most of the money is and where most of the philanthropy comes from. But assets are illiquid, so they are harder to get, so to speak. You have to build relationships, build trust. And I think very few have cracked the code on how to use high-level automation to support the higher dollar gifts, the consideration process for them. So with this high-level automation, you can get the ability to create marketing assets such as landing pages, which are needed for a more highly considered decision, and sometimes microsites, forms, surveys, things like that. They also provide the ability to segment and manage lists in a much more hyper-specific way. You can use them for much greater personalization and relevance, even with dynamic, relevant content. In other words, maybe your emails are, first of all, personalized and highly relevant for each individual, but then even the pages that they see when they get online, once they click on them, can be unbelievably customized just for that person. You can create super complex workflows in line with donor timing. And this is usually, we recommend based on when they click or where they click on your web pages. So for instance, if you had our Daf widget, just say for instance, and somebody a supporter clicked on the Daf widget, and you know that they've mentioned that they would consider giving through their DAF in the past, and then you get to track that because this is high level automation, then you would get a real-time notification or a prioritization alert letting you know that this individual by name has clicked on that widget. And maybe you could even look out for the gift. Hopefully it comes in, or you could talk to them about it without being spooky. I won't go down that path of how to do that, but just don't be spooky. Don't call people up and say, I just noticed you clicked on the DAF widget. No, not cool. So the key that I guess you could already tell, and I'll admit I am a little biased here, but the data says that we should be biased in this way, is that I recommend you focus on assets, on automation for assets, not cash. Remember this figure, it's not the 80-20 rule anymore. So we want to make sure that you're focusing in the right area with your donor dollars. You know, if you've got 3 people focused on basic and mid-level automation and nobody's focused on high-level automation, it's probably not a good idea because that's just not where most of the revenue comes from. So this kind of automation can help you engage more high capacity, philanthropic minded donor prospects, and can help them to move themselves forward in the consideration continuum so that they prioritize themselves for your caseloads or portfolios, if you call them that. This will remove a lot of the mundane and time-consuming tasks that gift officers are usually charged with doing, which is the reason why they can't get it all done. And yet they are probably fairly well compensated people. We don't want these people doing tedious tasks. We want them doing what they love to do, which is meeting with major donor prospects and building relationships and facilitating, we could call it fundraising, but I like to call it facilitating philanthropic giving. So what fundraisers don't like and what causes them to leave, causes high turnover, is when they're overworked doing tedious tasks or forced to attend events and things that they aren't really, they're more superficial, if you will. These kinds of things can make them feel underappreciated and undervalued, especially if organization leaders don't understand what they do and why it's so important to build relationships and trust. It can also, what drives them nuts, I hear all the time, is getting sent on these wild goose chases because, prospects were identified but not really qualified. So they ended up going on fool's errands to chase after them when just because they maybe are wealthy but are not necessarily ready. So, and of course, forcing them to make cold calls. What your staff should never be making cold calls. It should always just be warm calls. They should, and in fact, you should really have it so that you use automation so that donors set appointments on their own to meet with you when they're ready, rather than you having to chase them. And that is possible with automation. So we want to eliminate the false positives and help save time and increase revenue. To get people in the right seats, get them doing what they love doing so that they won't turn over. They'll be meeting with donors and doing what they love. Now, going back to that RNL study that I showed at the very beginning, they asked in that study, what % of newly assigned prospects do you feel are truly qualified to be in your major or planned gift donor pool? And what they found was it's only a little more than a third. So the way I look at this is that almost 2/3 of the assigned prospects are actually wasting gift officer time. It could be as much as that. Maybe you want to say half, be generous and say half, but time is money. And also if they're forced to reach out to people who aren't qualified and ready, then that could upset and frustrate donors, major donor prospects who just aren't ready for that kind of deep relationship. So, furthermore, from that study, okay, a few more points from that study is that only 27% of gift officers reported that they felt the wealth ratings they got were quite effective or very effective for focusing on the right prospects. And by the way, you may not feel the same way. I mean, I'm just repeating what the study says. So 92% said that the way they stayed engaged with their donors and prospects was by sending personal emails manually, not automated. Yet over half said that they didn't spend enough time on solicitation. So clearly they're spending a lot of time on things that automation these days can take care of so that they can focus more on meeting with donors and solicitation. 42% said that they didn't spend enough time on qualification. So these are the areas, frankly, where automation can really help you. It's really the missing link is qualification and cultivation. Prospect identification, sure, if you do that well, that's very helpful, but you've got to do qualification and cultivation right, or you'll never get to the point of solicitation. Okay, so yeah, what I call automating this, I call it tech-enabled donor discovery is part of the qualification process. You can enable technology. You can use technology to conduct donor discovery at scale through automation. I'm going to get to, generally we do that through surveys, automated surveys and automated emails after that. You can scale your qualification and prioritization efforts also, because this can all be automated through qualification scoring that helps you and recency indicators that help you understand when a donor is ready for outreach, very much like I just described a few minutes ago about someone possibly clicking on a Daf Widget button to give money from their donor advised fund. That shows readiness and interest and desire. So I'm going to get deeper into we got a lot of philosophy here, and I broke down some components and types of automation, but let me just show you some examples, right? And I'll try to be quiet here for a second, let you read this. All right, so hopefully some of you will feel that this is the kind of email that you would send to a supporter over time. And it's a magical email, of course. It came from a computer. It looks like it came from a fundraiser. And in fact, the guts of it, so to speak, were approved by a fundraiser, but here's what they got in response from a donor. Now, you can always take people out of cultivation and get on the phone, set an appointment, move them into your caseload, perhaps. That's what this person, this fundraiser probably did after they got this, assuming the person's qualified, of course. But this is the power of automation, is you actually can sleep, go to sleep, and the machine works. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never takes a break, never takes a vacation, never complains, and it gets results at scale. Here's another one, and I'm going to break this one down so that you can see what's going on here in general. This is from one of our customers. So are all of these, frankly, but I'll break it down is that you want to use personalization. You also want to use text only. You do not want it to look like marketing. Marketing will kill fundraising every time. Don't worry about the brand police. If they tell you that it's got to look a certain way, you got to have them call us, because the data shows that the more that you make it look like marketing, the worse it'll perform. So you want to personalize your salutation, use text only. You want to make sure it comes from an individual that's a real person. You could make it come, let's suppose you have 10 different people in 10 different regions. You could make it so that it comes from each of those people. You also want to make it relevant and personalized based on what people said in the past. Either to you, but preferably through a donor survey. That way you can automate right into the system. You also want to put a call to action in there, but never, ever, ever, ever do you want to ask for money. That is the death knell. That you're looking for big gifts and you're looking for meetings to get big gifts. You don't want to ask for money. You'll be like spilling your coffee in the lobby before you get up to the top floor. So don't do that. Instead, always provide a call to action for something that provides value in line, hopefully, with what the donor is interested in. Make sure that your replies go directly to you or one of your staff. And yeah, so that's breaking that down. Here's one more, and I want to tell you, this is not an email that we really love, but some customers are adamant about doing something like putting a donate button on their automated emails, and we can only sort of tell them so much that that's not a good idea. But we did it for them anyway, and I will tell you that, so if this is like the worst, which it's not the worst, but what I'm trying to tell you is that the click rate on these automated emails is really fantastic, even when it's not completely done the way that we recommend. Here's one more. Just take your time to check that out. And I'm just trying to give you an idea of what these look like. Now that kind of link goes to a calendar so that the donor can actually set their own meeting based on the availability of this individual, Jody. That makes it easy. So even if it's a small list, let's suppose it's 100 people and you get 10 of them to set an appointment. That's fantastic, because setting appointments is really hard. So this way the automation can do it for you. Now, I will tell you that I've heard fundraisers tell us, they say, oh my God, I don't want donors just plopping themselves on our calendar. I disagree. We convince people to think otherwise. We did that for a fella at Rensselaer University, which he now since moved, thankfully took us with him from, I don't know if he's on this call, but took us with him from Rensselaer to the new customer. But he got somebody who's scheduled 15 minutes time on his calendar, and he thought, oh boy, okay, what's this all about? Not sure, never heard of this person. They've never donated. They're not on my radar. Well, screening says they don't have any money, all that kind of stuff. But what ended up happening was they ended up closing a $4.5 million legacy gift. So I don't know. Personally, I think it's worth 15 minutes to just chat with somebody who wants to chat and see what's up. It happens. We hear these stories all the time. All right, so what you're hopefully getting to realize is that automation can help you scale your operation and make one gift officer perform hopefully like 9. It can generate these hot leads or help cultivate the cool ones to move them or help them move themselves to become warm or hot. You can see where people click on your web pages, which is important. I mean, it's not so important if they're just buying tickets to a football game or something, or an opera, but if they are clicking on information or downloading the quest language and forwarding it to someone, that's very, very useful information. And for prioritizing who you want to reach out to. And of course, again, you can have the system even set appointments. I won't go through this whole list, but this is really for like the HR team at your organization. And again, you'll get the slides, but this is how you attract A players. Because if you have automation in place, then they will have super warm caseloads who are ready to talk, already created. And this will just help with retention and save a lot of money on turnover costs. So here's where we are with our agenda. I'm going to go through the keys to success and a case study, do a quick promo, and then probably just over the top of the hour, we'll stick around. I hope you will too for Q&A. Okay, this isn't really such a secret, but I call it top secret. People like to talk about donor journeys, and we even use that phrase sometimes here at MarketSmart. But the truth of it is that you'll get an overzealous marketer who sees this new tool and they'll want to use all of its amazing characteristics to use the tool set to its fullest, but and they'll create these like tree limbs and crazy kinds of broken out donor journeys, figuring, well, we'll move them to this and then we'll give them that and then we'll move them to this and they'll click here and click there. And the truth is, okay, so I tried it when we first started doing this back in 2008, I think it was, and it didn't work. It didn't work. Well, let's say this, it worked, but compared to just simply providing value and relevance and personalization with an ongoing drumbeat in the right way at the right time, you can do much better. So if you see someone on your staff like plotting this out, I'm going to tell you that it's going to be a lot of work. You're going to wonder who's going to manage it if they quit. And it doesn't work any better than if you just plain deliver value in line with donor needs, which of course is best captured by using tech-enabled donor discovery, or also known as a survey, to capture that information. So I'm going to say, this is a great idea, and the companies that sell marketing automation love to show you this because it's a razzle dazzle, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work that much better. And the reason is because this is cool. That will work for very short decision timeframes, like maybe something that's weeks or months, but your kind of what you're doing in major gifts and legacy gifts is going to take months or years. Our data shows it's more than 50%, 52% of gifts will close in 1 to 2 or several years. All right, so now I'm going to go through a quick checklist of automated emails and what, if you're going to do this in-house, what you want to do and not do is, remember, you want to use text only. Don't make it look like marketing. It's got to be written in an authentic, genuine, heartfelt way and be very informal. You want to even put it through, there are tools where you can put it through to see the grade level of the writing. It should be no more than a 6th grade level. You could even go down to a 4th grade level. I know that makes a lot of people cringe, but this is the best kind of outreach. It works better if it's less formal and very warm. It's got to be relevant, also personalized, easy to read. Don't use your insider kind of jargon. Use regular words. Provide an offer that delivers value. Hopefully that's relevant. For instance, you might want to provide videos of beneficiaries like scholarship winners, right? So if you know what kind of school, for instance, I'm just using the college again as an example. If you know what school someone graduated from, you might want to use a video of a scholarship awardee from their particular school. Right? That's relevance. And you want to use a link. You probably saw the emails I created. I have links in them to that offer. Make sure that if they hit reply, they actually go to you or someone who's going to see that and continue the conversation. And we highly recommend, especially in the signature of your email, that you include a link so that people can schedule time for you to meet them. And I put this in red in all caps because you should never, ever, ever, ever ask for money in a major gift automation series or sequence, workflow, as we call them. That's how you deplete trust. And frankly, you'll leave money on the table because you don't need $500, you need $50,000. And that takes time, I realize, but you're better off if you just hold off on that. Don't make this transactional. Make sure to use the automation for a relational purpose. So here's just some sort of testimonials of people saying what happened when they started doing this. I mean, it's not just me telling you that automation works, but it's leaders across the field in any category. I've never seen it not work. I love this one from Cheryl. At American Lung, people are reaching out to me instead of the other way around. And this one from Janelle, who got $60 for every $1 invested. That was at the very beginning when she had first launched her system. So I'm happy for her. All right, so quick case study, and then I'll talk about Market Smart for a minute. You could jump at that point if you don't want to hear about that, or and then we'll go into Q&A. But this is from a small Catholic college called Benedictine College that has been with us a number of years and been using automation, I think 6 years now. What they found is that overall, the engaged supporters using engaging with automation gave $12,000 more on average. Now, the percentage of increase was much greater for low dollar donors. So this works for low dollar donations and mid-level as well. It increases the giving among those donors. The percentage is not as high for major donors of increase, but the dollar amount clearly is. It's almost double. So this is powerful when it comes to annual giving. The average increases, this is another way to look at it in terms of percentage increases, on average was almost a 500% increase. The percent who increased their giving, so upgraded, if you will, was greater, of course, across the board for all levels of giving. The retention rates are greater for all levels of giving. And the reactivated, the percent who were reactivated was greater. And also the reactivation donation amount was greater. But to boot, they were able to start building major gift and legacy gift pipelines. In fact, even uncovering hundreds, and this is a tiny college. I mean, I think they have 3,000 or 4,000 students, maybe less a year, but they uncovered 171 legacy gifts that were previously undisclosed. But you can see what the pipeline looks like for the people who would consider either major or legacy gifts. So this will all be in the slides. I won't go through these numbers very much, but I'll just show you what the pipeline looks like of both of those. It ends up that after a few years, they're really at about 100 to 1 ROI based on these pipelines. Now, important to note, though, that we did remove the principal donors from this analysis because it really warped the data, it warped the results. So we took out the wealthiest, the biggest gifts. I think it was over $100,000 gifts that we took out. All right, so the question is, can you afford to do this, I say, can you afford not to? That's what I think. Yeah, so that really completes this episode, and I thank you all for coming to learn about automation. I'm going to jump into what MarketSmart does for maybe a minute or two, and then we'll go into Q&A. So yeah, I said this at the beginning, we're a turnkey, done for you fundraising automation company. We do it for you, since with turnover, and most marketers at nonprofits, unfortunately, actually don't know how to write these kinds of emails. They don't have data from a decade of observation and clarification. They don't have the machine learning to be able to understand what works and what doesn't. So this is done for you rather than just supplying you with software. It helps people who are overwhelmed by too much data, usually prospect identified data or well-screened data. You may have gone through that process and found that most of the list was not used, or when you reached out to people that they were not ready to give or meet. So we've always been told that fundraisers want the actionable data so they can get more meetings and meaningful meetings. They don't need more data, they need more meetings in order to be the fundraiser that they always wanted to be. So this is operating, again, automation helps you operate in the realm of prospect qualification, which is not just finding out who, but more so why, and much more than that. So in other words, with automation, you can begin to understand automatically while you sleep why people care. What is the interconnection between their life story and your cause or mission? And what are their particular interests or passions that they relate to your cause? And who influenced them? Was it their mom? Was it a doctor at a hospital? Was it a professor who changed their life? How do they rank your cause compared to others that they support? And how committed and passionate are they about yours compared to others? Where are they in the consideration continuum? I mean, are they considering a gift now or later? Is it assets or is it cash? You know, you want assets or legacy gifts. And if they're interested in that, do they want information now? Do they want to meet now? Is it something they could do self-serve online? And a host of other information that you could capture. Like if you're in the legacy gift field, you probably want to know if they have children. You can find that out from the donor, not from some kind of screening, because that's not accurate. And frankly, that data doesn't exist anywhere. There's likelihood of children in a household, but older people don't have children in the household usually. And what you want to know is straight from the horse's mouth, do they have children? Are they interested in volunteering? You know, would they support your capital campaign? Would they give from their IRA? Things like this. This gives you a clearer picture of a qualified major donor prospect, and even helps them set a meeting with you. So it eliminates or reduces the wild goose chases, and it increases the value of your time. I mean, it makes you more efficient. So this is a proven system that we provide. It includes a survey, the automation that is based on what donors tell us. Our system thinks about what they say and then crafts these messages. They always then include links directing people to a VIP zone that's designed just for wealthy, philanthropic-minded people. You need to have different pictures, different words, different designs, different font sizes. Most organizations don't really have that. They may have planned giving pages or some major gift pages, but generally when I see them, they're done wrong. They are speculative, people just assuming what should go on those pages, or they're about how to make a transaction. But the transaction generally is the last part of the process. That's not what people are looking for online. They're looking for help to move themselves from awareness to interest, eventually desire, and then you should be the person to help them with their action, right? So we want to help people through automation move themselves forward in the consideration continuum and prioritize them in a dashboard and through automated notifications via email to you and your staff, so that you land more meetings with high capacity passionate donors when they are ready to meet. So this system has been proven now. Thankfully, we've been in business over a decade. Helps you zero in on the people who are ready now, while you can automatically cultivate the tons of other prospects effortlessly, and also cultivate and migrate the mid-level donors up. So if anyone's here on the call thinking about mid-level programs, this is ideal for that as well. The return on investment from us is guaranteed. You'll get 10-to-1 ROI. We don't guarantee the 100-to-1 ROI. Usually 10-to-1 is enough for people, but we do see that the lifetime value is going to be 100-to-1. So we recommend that you just look around, look at that event that maybe you're no longer doing, or maybe a direct mail campaign that's no longer working, or the prices are getting too expensive, and consider repurposing some budget and get at least 10-to-1 ROI or your money back. And I'm not afraid to say that. I'm the CEO, of course. I put my money where my mouth is, but look, we've never had to give anybody their money back yet. So if you're interested in that, we have a opportunity analysis that you can engage with us. We just need to look at some of your transactional data, and we marry it with our data, which we know is very good. And then we can create a forecast for you of what kind of ROI you're likely to receive. This is completely free. You don't have to pay at all. You'll get more data than you ever imagined, and you'd probably have to pay a few thousand, maybe $10,000 to a consultant to get this. But this will help you realize your opportunity. And you don't have to buy. You could just go through the process and see what your potential is. It's 100% free. It's never high pressure sales or anything like that. So, all right. Thank you for staying with me through that. It looks like a good portion of you, almost 2/3, 3/4 stuck around for Q&A. So I think what I'll do is I'll just jump into that, because I am going to end up just a little bit over the top of the hour. I apologize. So anonymous attendee asks, what do you say to a coworker who strongly believes we need to send more snail mailings? Yeah, well, at first I would say it's interesting because it's not their money that they're spending to send those snail mailings. They also probably think, like most marketers and most fundraisers, very transactionally, right? So when people get into fundraising, there are hundreds of widgets and tools that people can use for the transactional fundraising purposes. Most businesses that support the sector are focused on transactions, not relationships with major donors. Frankly, they just don't know their numbers. You should show them this presentation and have them do their own research. But most of the money comes from very few people. And if you have the money in your organization, if you have an endowment with $1 billion in it, and you don't mind just doing things the more expensive way to get more low dollar donations, then that's fine. I mean, I can't argue with it. But if money is tight and inflation is pinching your budgets and such, then you're going to want to optimize your operation. So I hope that helps Mr. or Ms. or they anonymous. Jessica, let's see. This works great for the database you have, but what if you want to acquire new people? Also, have you found those between 65 and 85? Most major donors are great with electronic cultivation. Very good question, Jessica. So the first one first, what if you want to acquire new people? Yeah, I always say to people, you'd be better off acquiring new major donor prospects with capacity and deep passion than you are with acquiring low dollar donors. I don't know, because I only got into this about 11 or 12 years ago, really. And I don't know who came up with this. I guess it's just old and traditional. But this concept of the donor pyramid, where you need to get someone to give it a low amount and then you work them up to being a major donor, is just bunk. I've looked at the data. It's BS. It's you can acquire new major donors. Here's the simplest way. I won't give you everything because there's a lot of other questions, but I'm going to tell you that yes, 10,000%, you can acquire new donors. And frankly, all you have to do is put that survey everywhere, like put it on your Facebook page, your LinkedIn page, Twitter, Instagram, make it a pop-up after people try to leave your website, say, don't go, take our survey. You know, after people sign up for an event, they haven't donated, but they went to the event. I mean, I could give you a list that's a mile long, but if you engage people with content and value in line with their concerns for the cause and their passion that relates to their life story and the intersection of it and your cause, you will attract them. They will opt in to the cultivation. And then you will learn also if they have assets, because they'll tell you, I have assets in my survey and I'd like to give them to your cause. Now, it's funny, as I get older, because I'm in my mid 50s now, and I see this about the 65 and 85, like, I don't know any 65-year-olds that really are not good with electronic cultivation. Maybe 85s. I know, you know, I know my mother-in-law's in her 80s. I mean, I think the data does not show that they disengage. Now, there are still plenty of people out there who in their later years do not use electronic media. Okay, fine. You're going to miss some people. It's true. So then you have to kind of think about what is the cost to make sure we get everybody, especially with direct mail or personal visits before cultivation and qualification. What is the cost of that versus just focusing on the people who do engage with electronics? I've never seen any data that says that people who don't engage with electronics give more. In fact, there's some research that would lead me to believe that people who do engage electronically give more, and that's because highly educated people tend to give more, and I believe that highly educated people are more likely to engage with electronic cultivation. So I hope that helps, Jessica. Sorry, it's a long response. Thanks everybody for sticking around. If that's not your question, of course, I hope you found that interesting. John asks, how does MarketSmart play with other marketing automation systems? Can messages, workflows that happen in MarketSmart be shown in an organization's CRM? Yes, 10,000%. We are CRM agnostic, and we have an API. This is a technical jargon term. Basically, our system talks to your system and can push data into your CRM as you see fit. So it plays well. I guess the short answer is it plays well. The problem with in-house marketing automation systems is 99% of the time, they're not really designed for major gift fundraisers. So most of our customers integrate data, and that is a very important question. So thank you. We only have one more left. So if you have another question, please. Oh, actually, I should probably look in the chat, see if there's questions, but one more in the Q&A. Is the best email marketing software in your opinion? What do you use? Well, we use our own proprietary email marketing software. If you're looking to do this kind of automation for major gifts, I'm sorry, Pete, but I don't know anybody, I don't know any marketing automation software that does what we do for the purpose of raising major gifts and legacy gifts. So I think not only are we the best, but I think we're the only ones. So if anyone knows of anybody else, I mean, there are tools, but they're generally designed for private sector. So let's see, here's one more question. Is there a way you can assist us with sourcing funds to kickstart our projects? Wow, well, sourcing funds to kickstart projects. I have to say, Emily, or Sane, I'm not sure I really understand what you mean by that. So I'm going to put that one aside for a minute and see if there's any other questions. Let's see here. Yeah, one new message. So I think that's about it. I think I'm going to wrap it up here today. I really appreciate everybody participating. I hope you found this informative, and please take the survey that you find after you exit this event. All right, we'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.